Hi everybody, I'm back again with another recipe, and this is a recipe I'm quite excited about because it's a one pan pot of pasta, and I've seen quite a lot in the last sort of year or so about pasta where you cook the pasta in with the sauce, so you've only got one pot to think about, one pot to wash, and everything's in one pot. But what I really like about this recipe is it actually improves the pasta and the sauce, because the starch from the pasta goes into the sauce and makes it really quite sort of creamy and really delicious. It's got a really nice feel to it. So we do everything in one pot and it will all cook and be ready. So the only thing is we've got to be very careful about how weighing our pasta and weighing our liquid or measuring our liquid. Other than that, we can add whatever we want to it. So I'm going to add in some vegetables that I had in the bottom of the fridge. So I had half an aubergine in the bottom of the fridge, a pepper, and I had 2 rashers of bacon left. You can happily do it just with vegetables. You can add in courgettes, peppers, aubergine, you could add in peas. I wouldn't sweat the peas off, I'd add the peas in a bit later. But you can add whatever you want into this dish. If you didn't eat meat and you ate fish, things like a tin of sardines with some capers would be really nice in this, and it would be a really, really healthy dish. It would give you a lot of the good fats that I talk about. So in here I've put all my vegetables. So I've put some oil in, a good drizzle of oil. It's probably about a tablespoon of oil. I've added in my vegetables, so I've just roughly chopped a pepper and my aubergine, and I'm just going to add some spices to this. So I'm going to add in a teaspoon of fennel seeds, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and a pinch of these nice chilli flakes. Now again, you don't have to add any of these things. You could add some mixed herbs as you're cooking it. As you can see, I've not measured it, so it's about a teaspoon of fennel seeds. Fennel is a fantastic seed. A lot of people in India carry them around in their top pockets. A lot of men do, and they chew on them after the meal because they're a really good digestive. They help us to digest our food and help us to not struggle with eating like too rich a meal. So fennel is fantastic to add into our sauce. I'm just giving them a quick grind up so that they aren't as noticeable. You just get the flavour in the sauce and not necessarily the whole seed. So I've just ground them up a bit, so I'm going to add that in now. I'm going to add a teaspoon of smoked paprika, one of my very favourite spices. It just adds so much because you get the lovely red colour, but you also get the smokiness, which is really nice. And then I'm going to add in a pinch of chilli powder, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt into this now. I've forgotten to get a wooden spoon, so I'm just giving it a bit of a stir with my knife. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt, adding salt as you go, seasons as you go, which means that you don't have to try and get seasoning into the vegetables at the end. Your bacon will have a little bit of salt in it anyway, but my vegetables could do with a bit of seasoning. You could add also, I thought would be really nice, if you had some sausages in your fridge, if you take the skin off your sausages and just sort of break it up into chunks, that would go really well with the fennel. So I'm just going to let this cook for 5-10 minutes until it starts to soften the pepper and the aubergine and take on a really nice sort of caramelised look to it. Okay, so these vegetables and bacon have been cooking for just over 5 minutes on a reasonably high heat. You can see they've kind of caramelised a lot, and there's lots of flavour in the bottom of the pan. Brown equals flavour, black doesn't equal flavour. So the next thing I'm going to add in is I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of tomato puree. So just squeeze it in there, and I'm going to add a tin of tomatoes. Any tin of tomatoes would do, but I found these quite cute cherry tomatoes in Lidl's yesterday, and I thought they would add quite a nice flavour. So I'm going to add them in to the dish, and you can hear I've got it on quite a high heat. I'll probably turn it down a little bit. There we are. So that's in. And we are nearly there. So the next thing I'm going to add in is a stock cube. So I quite like these jelly ones. I think they've got quite a lot of flavour. This is a chicken one, but equally you can add a vegetable one in. You can add a, you know, a powdery one. Just crumble it in. We're going to be adding liquid anyway. So I'm just adding that in and I'm going to let it dissolve in there. And then I'm going to add in my pasta. Now I've got 300 grams of pasta. That should do 4 people a nice meal. So I'm just adding in my pasta and I'm just coating it in the pan. And then I'm going to add in my boiling liquid. So I am adding in 1.5 of these jugs. So this is 500 mils to start with. And I'm just going to add some into my can just because then I can wash out my can and get all the tomato flavour. So that's 1 jug in. And then I'm going to add in another, so that was 500 mils, and I'm going to add in another 300 mils. So that's 800 mils in total of boiling water. I'm just going to turn it up to bring it to the boil. And then I'm going to add some more salt. Pasta likes salt to flavour it. And if it's in the liquid, it will absorb it into the pasta. So I'm adding a couple of teaspoons of sea salt to that. And then when this comes to the boil, I'm just going to let it cook away for 15 minutes. And every sort of 3 to 5 minutes, I'll just come and give it a stir to make sure the bits of pasta on the top are getting under the liquid. So the only other thing I would say about this dish, so it's obviously quite important how much liquid you add, how much pasta you add. It's also important to do it in one of these sort of shallower pans. So you could use a deep frying pan, or you could use one of these sort of deep, these kind of casserole type pans. And the reason is because it will allow the pasta to sit at sit all in sort of one level. It's not trying to cook things in too deep a level, but it also lets for the right amount of evaporation. So this will literally, that is it. The job is done. And this should cook down to a lovely sauce that's going to coat the pasta, cook the pasta, and in 15 minutes we should have a nice meal. Okay, so this has been cooking for 15 minutes, and what I did was I set my timer for 5 minutes, came in and gave it a stir, set it for another 5 minutes, and then I came through the third time. That was it. It cooked. I've tasted the pasta. It's cooked. Make sure it's white pasta you use, because wholemeal pasta will take a bit longer, and rice pasta's again got a different cookery time. So white pasta, if you pick quite a fine pasta like a penne, then you know you've got it will cook through. But this one's quite a sort of fat pasta. I just like the shape of it, and it's absolutely cooked. So everything is coated. The pasta, the sauce is lovely and thick and creamy. So you could do anything you wanted with this now. You could add in some soft cream cheese or some ricotta to start through, and then you've got a creamier dish. You could add some cheese, you could dollop through some pesto, or you could have it just as it comes, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to plate up a nice bowl of pasta here, and I'm going to pop some cheese on top. So I've got some Parmesan here, but obviously you can use cheddar or whatever you want. You don't have to have cheese at all. If you've got any herbs, they could be popped on now. And there we go. So the other thing I didn't say was if you were going to add some peas or some frozen vegetables, add them in when you add the stock in, and they'll cook in with the pasta. It's really, really hard to overcook peas. So even if the peas were in for 15 minutes, I wouldn't worry too much about it. So there we go. We've got one pot. Everything's gone into the one pot. Everything is cooked in 15 minutes. I mean, probably another few minutes for chopping, but 15 minutes in your pot, and you've got a lovely pasta dish, and it is absolutely delicious, I promise you.